grab your life jackets and get ready, because we are jumping straight into a completely epic adventure in today's Explainer. We're exploring a really fascinating piece of writing about faith, and we're going to look at it through the lens of a massive, rushing river. If you've ever wondered how faith actually works in your everyday life, especially when things feel super tough, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to talk about what it means to be on this river, what it means to literally grab the oars, and who exactly is sitting in the boat with us. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to close your eyes for just a quick second and imagine being in a small wooden rowboat. You've got a heavy wooden oar in each hand, but you aren't on some calm, quiet, glassy lake. No way. You're facing a super strong, rushing water current that's barreling right at you. Have you ever tried paddling up a river like that? It's intense. The water is heavy, it's incredibly loud, and it's constantly pushing against the front of your little boat. If you just sit there and do nothing, you're instantly going to start moving backward. And the source material we're looking at today paints this exact picture of our lives. You see, the water around us isn't still. Life just isn't a quiet pond. There are forces, a literal river current, actively pushing hard against your boat every single day. You can almost feel the spray on your face, right? You can feel the boat rocking, and you can feel that immense pressure trying to spin you around and send you tumbling down the river.
And that brings us to the first part of our journey. Part 1, the river adventure begins. Next up is Part 2. Battling the invisible current.
Now, in real life, obviously you aren't actually sitting in a wooden rowboat on your way to school or when you're just hanging out with your friends. So what is this tricky, invisible river current actually made of in our daily lives? What's this force that's always trying to push us backward, away from where we actually want to go? Well, our source text gives us a truly great definition. It says the current is made up of things like envy, pride, malice, and jealousy. Let's break that down a bit. Envy and jealousy. That's like when your friend gets a super awesome new toy or a brand new video game, and instead of being happy for them, a little part of you gets mad. Or you just really wish you had it instead. That feeling right there, that is the current pushing you backward. And pride is when you think you're better than someone else and you maybe treat them unkindly because of it. That urge to be mean or selfish, that's the invisible river water trying to slam into your boat and knock you way off course.
Moving right along to Part 3, no passive passengers allowed on board.
You see, a big mistake a lot of people make when they get into this boat of life is thinking they can just chill out. They think, hey, I'm in the boat, I'm good. I'll just kick back, put my feet up, maybe take a nap, and somehow I'll just magically float to the finish line. But remember that rushing current we just talked about? The text we're analyzing today puts it perfectly with this amazing quote. It says, "Man cannot be towed to heaven. He cannot go as a passive passenger." Think about when a car breaks down on the highway. A big tow truck comes along, hooks up a heavy chain, and just drags the broken car to the mechanic. The broken car doesn't do any work at all, right? Well, the source material is telling us loudly and clearly, you are not a broken down car. You cannot just sit there expecting to be pulled to the finish line without doing a single bit of work. You absolutely cannot be a passive passenger on this trip.
Now, what's really interesting about this idea is the very clear choice the author says we have to make every single day. On one hand, if you lay down the oars, you instantly drift backward into those bad habits like jealousy and pride. The author warns us that if you think you can lay down the oars and still somehow make your way upstream, you are completely mistaken. But on the other hand, the text says it is only by earnest effort, by actually using the oars with all your might, that you can stem the current and move upstream. It takes real, sweaty, hard work.
Which takes us to Part 4, grabbing the oars and taking action. So, if we actually want to move past the jealousy, past the urge to be unkind, and past the pride, we have to physically do something. We have to lean forward, wrap our hands around the handles of those oars, and pull. But what exactly are we bringing to this effort? According to the text, here is your packing list for the boat. First, your human will. That's your pure determination to do the right thing. Next, your ingenuity. That's just a great word for smart thinking and creativity. Then tact, which means being careful and thoughtful in how you treat other people. And finally, your skill. The text explicitly points out that God does not want blind, stupid credulity. That's kind of a funny, old-school way of saying he doesn't want you to just turn off your brain and float like a log. He wants you to use your brain, your willpower, and your awesome skills to row hard against all the bad stuff.
And that leads us to Part 5, teaming up with God, our secret weapon.
Because here's the reality. Even if you row as hard as you absolutely can, sometimes that current of pride or anger is just too strong. Sometimes, on our own, we are, as the author writes, as weak as water. And that is exactly why we aren't actually rowing alone. The book of Isaiah chapter 27 verse 5 gives us the core message of how this whole thing works. It says, "Let him take hold of my strength, and he shall make peace with me." And this brilliantly illustrates that when we grab those oars and start trying our absolute best, we aren't relying just on our own little muscles. God is right there in the boat with us saying, "Hey, grab onto my strength." When we make the effort, he provides his never-failing super strength to help us pull the oars through that incredibly heavy water.
The text actually calls this cooperation with divine agencies, which is basically just the ultimate form of teamwork. Let's move on and see how this builds into an action plan you can actually use today. Step 1, bring your willingness. You genuinely have to want to move forward. Step 2, ask for God's strength. You have to admit you can't beat the strong river all by yourself. And step 3, row hard together. You use your smarts and your effort, but it's totally fueled by God's endless power. That right there is the winning combination. So the crucial point is what happens when we commit to this teamwork. When you put in this earnest effort combined with God's strength, truly amazing things happen. Those evil stains like malice and pride, they're completely swept away by the water. Only the good things, the graces of the Spirit like kindness and love, actually remain in your boat. You grow strong, attaining full stature, and honestly, perhaps best of all, as the author notes from their own experience, when you lay hold of God's strength, you find a deep, wonderful peace that passes all understanding. You aren't fighting the river alone anymore.
So, as we wrap up our river adventure today, I want to leave you with a quick challenge to think about. What is one current of pride, or maybe jealousy, or just a bad habit that you and God can row against today? Where in your life do you need to stop being a passive passenger, grab those oars, and ask for His super strength to pull you through? Think about it. Grab your oars and start rowing. Keep exploring, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.